Dealer humiliates farmer. But when he found out how much she was about to spend, Amanda Bennett held back tears as 4 salesmen in dark suits stared at her with mocking smiles. Her visit to the American Roots truck dealership in Sacramento had turned into a public humiliation she never imagined facing at 55. That's when the youngest salesman, Tyler, pointed at her worn straw hat and said loud enough for his colleagues to hear, "Hey guys, looks like the Rural Heritage Museum. Lost an exhibit piece." The other 3 burst into laughter as the other customers turned to look at her. Amanda felt her face burn with shame, but kept her posture straight, just as she'd learned to do during her lifelong work in the coffee plantations of the Central Valley. "So you're interested in one of our trucks?" asked Richard, the oldest. Salesman, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Maybe we have a used model that fits your budget. The new ones start at $380,000. Amanda took a deep breath before answering. "Actually, I'm looking for 10 new trucks. The premium 460 model seems suitable for transporting my harvest." The 4 salesmen exchanged glances and stifled chuckles. 10 trucks? Michael, the 3rd salesman, made sure to emphasize each syllable mockingly. "You do realize we're talking about over $4 million, right?" The 4th salesman, Paul, stepped closer with a catalog in hand. "Listen, Mama, what was your name again?" "Amanda Bennett." "Mrs. Bennett, maybe you're confused. These are heavy-duty trucks, not small tractors. Why don't you visit the tractor dealership on the edge of town? They have more affordable financing for small producers." The pressure to keep her composure was almost unbearable. Amanda just wanted to finalize the purchase she'd planned for months and return to her farm. The record harvest of specialty coffee had secured an international contract that would forever change the course of the business she'd run alone since her husband left her 8 years ago. "Can I at least see the technical specifications for the models?" she asked, ignoring the offensive suggestion. Of course," Richard replied, rolling his eyes at his colleagues. "But just out of curiosity, where do you plan to get the money for this purchase?" Before Amanda could answer, a voice came from behind the salesman. "What's going on here?" It was Robert Mitchell, the dealership manager, who had just stepped out of a meeting. "We were just explaining to the lady that these trucks might not be suitable for her," Tyler said, nervously adjusting his tie. Robert took in the scene, 4 of his salesmen surrounding a middle-aged woman dressed simply in khaki pants, a light shirt, and a straw hat. He also noticed the quiet dignity in her eyes despite her obvious discomfort. "Can I help you, ma'am?" "Bennett. Amanda Bennett," she replied firmly, "from Sunrise Valley Farm." The manager's eyebrows lifted slightly, as if trying to recall something. "I apologize for any inconvenience, Mrs. Bennett. May I assist you personally?" Amanda looked at the 4 salesmen, who still wore smirks, then at her watch. "Actually, I think I've wasted enough time here. Thank you, but I'll find another dealership." Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked steadily toward the exit, feeling their stares on her back. Only when she got into her pickup, a 5-year-old truck but impeccably maintained, did she let a single tear roll down her face. "Idiots," she muttered to herself as she started the engine. Back at the dealership, Robert Mitchell approached the salesman with a stern expression. "Can someone explain what just happened?" "No big deal, boss," replied Paul, shrugging. "Just a lady from the countryside who got a little carried away dreaming. Said she wanted to buy 10 trucks at once." Robert paled. "Did you say Amanda Bennett? From Sunrise Valley Farm?" The 4 nodded, still not grasping the gravity of the situation. "Do you have any idea who you just treated like some country bumpkin?" Robert ran a hand through his hair, visibly nervous. "Amanda Bennett owns the largest specialty coffee farm in the Central Valley. She just closed a $15 million export deal with an international chain." The smiles vanished instantly from the salesmen's faces. "What?" Richard was the first to speak. "I was reading about her in U.S. Agribusiness magazine this morning in my office," Robert continued. "She was the cover story. Her farm has over 700 hectares of specialty Arabica coffee and has won the last 3 quality competitions. She came here to buy the fleet that'll transport the harvest to the port of Oakland." Tyler, the youngest, slowly sank into a nearby chair, realizing the magnitude of their mistake. "But she didn't look like," Paul began. "Look like what?" Robert interrupted. "A wealthy businesswoman? And how exactly is a wealthy businesswoman supposed to look? In high heels and a suit in the middle of a farm? The four fell silent, staring at the floor. You just cost the dealership a sale worth over $4 million, Robert concluded, and probably our reputation among the local producers. Meanwhile, on the road back to Sunrise Valley Farm, Amanda drove in silence, trying to process what had just happened. She was used to prejudice. Ever since taking full control of the farm after her husband's departure, she'd faced skeptical looks from suppliers, buyers, and bankers. But she'd never been so openly humiliated as at that dealership. Amanda had carefully planned the purchase of that fleet. With the newly signed international contract, she needed to secure transportation for the harvest to the port. The POW trucks would be crucial for logistics and reducing reliance on third parties. Now she'd have to find another dealership, maybe even in another city, which would delay her plans. When she arrived at the farm, she was greeted by Jack Brown, her foreman of over 20 years, who immediately noticed her downcast expression. "Something wrong, Miss Bennett?" She forced a smile as she stepped out of the pickup. "Nothing serious, Jack, just a hiccup in town. What about the trucks? Did you close the deal?" "Not yet. I'll look for another dealership tomorrow." Before Jack could ask more questions, another pickup entered the farm's main gate. Amanda recognized the vehicle of Andrew Foster, her accountant. "Andrew, I wasn't expecting you today," she remarked as the middle-aged man approached, a folder of documents in hand and a worried look on his face. "We need to talk, Amanda. There's been some trouble with the IRS." Those words made her stomach drop. Trouble with the Internal Revenue Service was never good news, especially when she was about to make a major investment. "Let's go to the office," she replied, leading the way to the main house. Amanda's office was simple but functional. A solid wood desk, an heirloom from her father, stood at the center of the room. The walls were lined with detailed property maps and quality certificates for the farm's coffee. The only luxury was an Italian espresso machine, a gift she'd given herself after winning her first quality competition. "Coffee?" offered to Andrew, who nodded while organizing the papers on the table. As she prepared the 2 cups, Amanda eyed the accountant sideways. She had known him for over 15 years and trusted his work. If he had come to the farm unannounced, the matter was truly serious. "So what happened?" she asked, placing the cup in front of him and sitting down. Andrew took a sip of coffee before answering. "The Internal Revenue Service is questioning some deductions we made last year related to investments in coffee processing. Some machinery. They're claiming the documentation is incomplete and are requesting a review. Does that mean a fine? Possibly. But the bigger issue isn't that. Until this is resolved, your EIN will have a tax hold." Amanda immediately understood the implications. "And no bank will approve financing for the trucks with a tax hold on the EIN." "Exactly," Andrew confirmed. "And paying up front would strain cash flow too much, especially with the investments you've already planned for expanding the cultivation area." Amanda stood and walked to the window, where she could see part of the coffee plantations stretching across the property. She had worked tirelessly to turn Sunrise Valley Farm into a benchmark for specialty coffee. After Paul, her ex-husband, left taking much of their savings, many doubted she could keep the farm. Not only did she keep it, but she expanded and raised the quality of production to international levels, and now a bureaucratic issue threatened to delay her expansion plans. "How long to resolve this?" she asked, still looking out the window. "Best case scenario, 3 weeks, worst case, 2 months. She turned to face him. "We don't have 2 months, Andrew. The contract with the Japanese requires us to start deliveries in 6 weeks. Without the trucks, we won't meet the schedule. We could outsource transportation temporarily, at a much higher cost and no guarantee of availability during peak harvest." She shook her head. "We need to resolve this as soon as possible. Gather all the necessary documentation. I'll go to Sacramento tomorrow to speak with our lawyer." After Andrew left, Amanda remained in her office, mentally reviewing her options. The humiliation at the dealership now seemed like a minor issue compared to the tax obstacle that had arisen. Maybe it was even a sign to reconsider that specific purchase. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Unknown number. "Hello?" "Mrs. Bennett, This is Tyler from the American Roots dealership. We met earlier today. Amanda felt her blood boil as she recognized the voice of the young salesman who had joked about her straw hat. "What do you want?" she replied coldly. He hesitated for a moment. "I wanted to apologize for today's inappropriate behavior and invite you back to our dealership. We have special conditions for your purchase and—" "Mr. Tyler, is it?" she interrupted. "I appreciate the call, but I'm currently reevaluating my options. Good afternoon." She hung up before he could respond. The call, however, piqued her curiosity. The manager had probably found out who she was, and now they were desperate to salvage the lost sale. Ironic, she thought. If they had simply treated her with the basic respect any customer deserves, the deal would already be closed. The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind of activity. Amanda personally inspected the maintenance of the processing machinery, checked the condition of the seedlings in the nursery, and joined a video call with the Japanese buyers to finalize contract details. It was already night when she finally had time to take a shower and relax a little. Sitting on the porch of the main house with a cup of her own coffee in hand, Amanda reflected on the day's events. Her phone rang again. It was Mary, her best friend since school and owner of a neighboring farm. "I just heard what happened at the dealership," Mary said without even saying hello. "The whole town is already talking about it." Amanda sighed. News sure travels fast. Tracy, who works at the reception there, told her cousin, who's married to Jerry from the cooperative, and he told everyone at the afternoon coffee break. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. It was just an unpleasant situation." "Unpleasant? Amanda? They humiliated you, and now they're desperate because they found out who you are." "What do you mean?" "That manager, Robert, has been calling everyone in agribusiness around here asking about you and trying to get your number. Sounds like the salesmen are hanging by a thread." Amanda couldn't help feeling a twinge of satisfaction hearing that. Part of her, the part still carrying the scars from years of fighting for respect in a predominantly male world, wanted to see those men pay for what they'd done. But another part wondered if dragging it out was worth it. "Forget those idiots," Mary continued. "Talk to the folks at Rightway, the new dealership that opened in Bakersfield. I heard they have great deals. I'll look into it tomorrow." "Right. Now I have a more urgent problem." Amanda explained the issue with the Internal Revenue Service and how it could affect the truck purchase. "Why don't you talk to Robert at the Agricultural Bank?" Mary suggested. "You've had a relationship for years. He knows your reputation. Maybe he can speed up the financing process despite this hiccup." "That's an idea. I'll reach out to him tomorrow." Amanda yawned. "I'm exhausted, Mary. We'll talk more tomorrow. Get some rest. And remember what your mother always said." Amanda smiled. Margaret, her mother, had been one of the first women to run her own farm in the region, facing even greater prejudice. "A woman in the fields needs skin tougher than alligator hide, but a heart always soft for the right things," Amanda recited. "Exactly. Toughness for the ignorant, kindness for those who deserve it. Good night, friend." The next morning, Amanda woke up determined to solve her problems. After breakfast, she was ready to leave when her phone rang. It was Robert Mitchell, the dealership manager. "Mrs. Bennett, first I want to apologize for the treatment you received at our dealership yesterday. It was completely unacceptable and doesn't reflect our company's values." "I appreciate the call, Mr. Mitchell, but I'm quite busy today." "I understand. I just wanted to let you know we're prepared to offer special terms for your purchase, including a 10% discount on the total fleet value and priority delivery." Amanda paused. The discount would mean significant savings, but money wasn't the main issue right then. "Mr. Mitchell, at the moment, I'm dealing with a tax issue that might block any financing, but I appreciate your offer. Have a good day." She hung up and headed to Sacramento. Her first stop was the office of Dr. Charles Morrison, her tax attorney. After a long meeting, they came up with a plan to resolve the tax issue within 2 weeks at most, but there were no guarantees. Next, she went to the Agricultural Bank to speak with Raymond Davis, the manager who had overseen the farm's accounts for over a decade. As Mary had predicted, Robert was more flexible about the tax issue. "With your credit history and the guarantee from the international contract, we can try for conditional approval on the financing," he explained. I can't promise anything, but I'll personally advocate for your case with the committee. Upon leaving the bank, Amanda decided to have lunch at Taste of the Land, a restaurant popular with agribusiness professionals. While waiting for her meal, she received a new text message. It was from the Right Way dealership in Bakersfield, confirming an appointment for that afternoon. Mary must have made the call for her. The restaurant was starting to fill up, and soon there were no empty tables left. Amanda was focused on her emails when she heard a familiar voice asking permission to share her table. She looked up and felt her stomach drop. It was Tyler, the salesman who had humiliated her. "Mrs. Bennett," he said, visibly uncomfortable. "What a coincidence." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers out. Now, back to the story. "Coincidence?" she replied skeptically. "At a restaurant 3 blocks from the dealership?" "I really do eat here almost every day," he assured her, still standing with his tray. "With your permission, every other seat is taken." Amanda glanced around and confirmed there were no other tables available. Reluctantly, she gestured to the empty chair across from her. "Thank you," he said, sitting down. An awkward silence settled between them as they began eating. It was Tyler who finally broke it. "I truly regret what happened yesterday. My behavior was unforgivable." Amanda kept eating without responding. "There's no excuse for what I did," he continued. "And I'm not here to save a sale or my job. I just wanted you to know how deeply sorry I am." Something in his voice sounded sincere enough that Amanda finally looked at him. "Why did you do it?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. He hesitated. "Honestly? A mix of arrogance, pressure to perform, and the culture of that place." He lowered his eyes. "But none of that is an excuse." "How old are you, Tyler?" 29. "And how long have you been in sales?" "Almost 5 years, 2 at American Roots." Amanda studied the young man in front of her. There was something familiar about him, a mix of arrogance and vulnerability that reminded her of her nephew. "Did you grow up in the city or the countryside?" she asked. "The city, but my grandparents had a farm in Danville. I spent a lot of summers there as a kid." "And what would your grandfather say if he knew how you treated a farm producer yesterday?" Tyler's face flushed. He'd be deeply disappointed. He was a man who valued respect above all else. Amanda gave a slight nod. "Do you realize the problem wasn't just with me? How many other customers have you judged by appearances? How many sales have you lost because of that arrogance?" "More than I'd like to admit," he confessed. "Actually, I'm in a tough spot. This month I've lost several big sales, and after what happened with you, my job is hanging by a thread." "That's your problem, not mine," Amanda replied, turning her attention back to her plate. "I completely agree. I'm just being honest." They finished eating in silence. When Amanda asked for the check, Tyler insisted on paying. "Please, it's the least I can do. It's not necessary. I insist, not as compensation, but as a sincere acknowledgement of my mistake." Amanda finally relented. As she stood to leave, she asked one last question. "What have you learned from all this, Tyler?" He thought for a moment before answering. "That judging people by appearances isn't just morally wrong. It's also stupidly bad for business, and that respect should be the foundation of every interaction, no matter who's on the other side." "Good. Sounds like your grandfather would be a little less disappointed now," she said, picking up her purse. "Good luck with your job." "Mrs. Bennett," he called out as she was already walking away. "If you give us a second chance, I promise, you'll receive the best service you've ever had." She simply nodded and left, leaving him wondering whether that nod meant a possibility or just a polite goodbye. That afternoon, Amanda visited the Right Way dealership in Bakersfield. The reception was completely different. From the very first moment, she was treated with courtesy and professionalism. The sales manager, Charles Morgan, seemed genuinely interested in understanding her needs without any judgment about her appearance. "Our policy is clear, Mrs. Bennett," Charles explained as they walked through the showroom. "Customers are evaluated by the seriousness of their needs, not by what they wear or how they look. Unfortunately, I know not all dealerships follow this philosophy." "Recent experience?" she asked with an ironic smile. "Word travels fast in our industry," he replied diplomatically. "But I'd rather talk about solutions, not problems. We have exactly the 10 models you're looking for, and we can offer competitive financing terms." After a detailed presentation and transparent negotiation, Amanda left Rightway with a formal proposal in hand. The terms were good, though slightly less advantageous than those offered by Robert Mitchell over the phone. More importantly, Charles had understood her tax situation and proposed a flexible schedule that could adapt to resolving the pending issue. When she returned to Sunrise Valley Farm at the end of the day, Jack Brown informed her that the representative from the Specialty Coffee Producers Association had called, confirming her participation as a speaker at the regional event taking place that weekend in Sacramento. It was a commitment she had completely forgotten amid all the chaos of the past few days. "And Mr. Morrison from the cooperative also called," Jack continued. "He said he heard about what happened at the dealership and that several members are outraged. They're considering a collective boycott of American Roots." Amanda shook her head. "Tell Morrison I appreciate the solidarity, but it's not necessary. Everyone should do business where they feel best served." That evening, while reviewing some contracts in her office, Amanda was surprised by an email notification. It was from Tracy, the receptionist at the American Roots dealership. "Dear Mrs. Bennett, you don't know me personally, but I was at the reception desk on the day of the incident. First, I want to apologize for not intervening. I've only worked there for 2 months and am still on probation. I'm writing to let you know your case isn't isolated. Those salespeople, especially Tyler and Richard, have a history of treating customers they don't consider promising with disdain, usually simple folks, farm workers, unaccompanied women, and elderly people. Today, after hours, there was a disciplinary meeting with them. The manager made it clear that behavior like that won't be tolerated anymore, and that the next offense will result in termination for just cause. I don't expect this to undo the harm done to you, but I thought you should know your experience is bringing about positive changes here. Respectfully, Tracy Olson." Amanda reread the email twice, feeling conflicted. On one hand, there was satisfaction in knowing her negative experience might prevent other customers from going through the same. On the other, she wondered if a simple warning would be enough to change such deeply ingrained behavior. The next morning, while having breakfast, Amanda received a call from Andrew, her accountant. "Good news," he said excitedly. "I just spoke with my contact at the Internal Revenue Service. If we submit the additional documentation by tomorrow, they'll prioritize reviewing our case, and we could have an answer within a week." "That's excellent, Andrew. Prepare everything and meet me at the farm office at 2 in the afternoon so we can review it." With the possibility of resolving the tax issue sooner than expected, Amanda decided she needed to make a decision about where to purchase the trucks. She had 2 proposals in hand, one from Rightway, formally presented, and another from American Roots, mentioned only over the phone. The logical choice would be to go with Rightway. Their service had been impeccable and the proposal was solid. However, the discount offered by American Roots would mean significant savings that could be reinvested in the farm. Amanda decided she needed to visit American Roots one more time, not to give their arrogant salespeople a second chance, but to formalize the proposal and make a proper comparison. She called Robert Mitchell and scheduled an appointment for early afternoon. She dressed as she always did, comfortable pants, a light shirt, and her inseparable straw hat. If they expected her to change her appearance to be treated with respect, they'd be disappointed. When she arrived at the dealership, she immediately noticed a shift in the atmosphere. Tracy, the receptionist who had sent the email, recognized her instantly and came to greet her personally. "Mrs. Bennett, it's so good to see you again. Mr. Mitchell has been informed of your arrival and will be with you shortly. Would you like some coffee while you wait?" Amanda accepted the coffee and discreetly observed the surroundings. The 4 salespeople were present but kept their distance, casting glances in her direction. Only Tyler gave a slight nod in acknowledgement. Robert appeared quickly and escorted her to his office, where he formally presented the proposal he had mentioned over the phone. The terms were genuinely attractive and included features the other dealership hadn't offered, such as an extended Maintenance program. We're truly interested in building a long-term relationship with Sunrise Valley Farm, Mrs. Bennett, Robert said. And we want to show that the previous incident was an unfortunate exception, not the standard for our company. I understand, Mr. Mitchell. I appreciate the proposal and will review it carefully. As she left the office, Amanda was surprised by a sudden commotion. Richard, the older salesman who had been particularly condescending during her first visit, was apparently being escorted out by security. He carried a box of personal belongings, his face twisted in anger. Tracy approached discreetly. "He was let go this morning," she whispered. "Apparently, there was another complaint yesterday afternoon, from a dairy farmer in Amarillo." Amanda nodded without comment. As she walked toward the exit, Tyler hesitantly approached. "Mrs. Bennett, I just wanted to say that if you decide to give us another chance, I'll personally ensure your experience is flawless." "Thank you, Tyler. I'm still weighing my options." As she stepped outside, Amanda spotted a familiar face. Entering James Gibson, owner of a neighboring farm and one of the most respected producers in the area. They exchanged polite greetings. "Here to buy a new truck, James?" she asked. "Actually, I came to cancel a purchase," he replied with a conspiratorial smile. "I heard how they treated you and decided my money would be better spent elsewhere. You didn't have to do that for me. It's not just for you, Amanda. If they treated a producer of your caliber like that, how would they handle a small farmer needing technical support or dealing with vehicle issues? I'd rather not find out." Those words echoed in Amanda's mind as she drove back to the farm. James was right. The issue went beyond the personal disrespect she had faced. It was about a corporate culture that allowed customers to be judged and treated differently based on appearances. On the other hand, Tracy's email and Richard's dismissal suggested that perhaps a change was underway, and Tyler, despite his initial deplorable behavior, seemed genuinely remorseful and willing to change. Over the weekend, Amanda participated as a speaker at the regional coffee farming event in Sacramento. Her presentation on the innovative cultivation techniques that had improved her coffee's quality was very well received. During breaks, several producers approached her, expressing solidarity over the dealership incident and admiration for her stance. On Sunday evening, back at Sunrise Valley Farm, Amanda finally made her decision. She would call Charles from Right Way the next morning to accept their offer. The savings offered by American Roots weren't worth the discomfort of doing business with a company that only valued her once they discovered her purchasing power. Monday dawned with heavy rain. Amanda had scheduled a meeting with her team to discuss final preparations for the harvest, which would begin in 2 weeks. Midway through the meeting, she was interrupted by Melissa, her secretary. "I'm sorry, Ms. Bennett, but there's a woman from the American Roots dealership in reception. She says she forgot some documents here the last time they visited and needs to retrieve them urgently." Amanda frowned, confused. No one from the dealership had ever visited the farm before. "What documents?" "Something related to a previous purchase by your ex-husband, according to her. She said it's important for their records." Intrigued, Amanda asked for the visitor to be brought to her office after the meeting. 20 minutes later, she came, face to face with Tracy, the receptionist who had sent her the email. "Ms. Bennett, I'm sorry for lying about the documents," Tracy said nervously, glancing at the door to make sure they were alone. "There was no other way to speak with you, without raising suspicions. What is this about, Tracy?" The young woman took a deep breath before continuing. "Tyler is being fired today. The manager is furious because he defended an elderly lady who was mistreated by Paul on Friday. There was a nasty argument, and Robert called him in for a meeting today at 2 o'clock. And why does this concern me? Because Tyler is the only one who truly regrets what happened. The others are just scared of the consequences, but he's genuinely trying to change." Tracy hesitated. "He mentioned meeting you at the restaurant and said your conversation made him rethink a lot of things." Amanda studied the young woman in front of her, trying to understand her motives. "Tracy, why do you care so much about what happens to Tyler?" "Because I was treated the same way when I started working there. I'm from Pleasanton, I have a country accent, and they did everything to make me feel inferior. Tyler was part of that at first, but he was the first to change. He deserves a second chance." Amanda thought for a moment. Her natural inclination was to stay out of this corporate drama, yet something in Tracy's sincerity moved her. "What exactly do you expect me to do?" "If you could call Mr. Mitchell, maybe mention that you're considering their proposal and would like Tyler to be your designated salesperson." Amanda shook her head. "I can't do that, Tracy. It would be unethical to interfere like that, especially since I've already decided to do business with another dealership." Tracy, visibly deflated. "I understand. I'm sorry for taking up your time." As the young woman prepared to leave, Amanda continued, "However, I'll be in Sacramento this afternoon for a meeting at the bank. Maybe I'll stop by the dealership to personally deliver my response to their offer." Tracy's eyes lit up. "The meeting with Tyler is scheduled for 2 o'clock in Robert's office." "I understand. Thank you for the information." After Tracy left, Amanda called Raymond from the agricultural bank and confirmed she'd be there at 3 p.m. to discuss financing, now that the tax matter was sorted. Then she called Charles from Right Way and asked for one more day to give her final answer. At 1:45 p.m., Amanda arrived at the American Roots dealership. The atmosphere was tense. Tracy at the reception gave her a worried look while announcing her arrival. Robert appeared quickly, visibly surprised by her unscheduled visit. "Mrs. Bennett, what an unexpected pleasure. Have you come to share your decision about our proposal?" "Yes, Mr. Mitchell, but first, I'd like to see the models again, preferably with the salesman who initially assisted me." "Tyler?" Robert seemed uncomfortable. "He's in a meeting right now. I can assign another salesman or assist you personally." "I'd prefer to wait for Tyler if you don't mind. We have unfinished business." Robert hesitated, clearly torn between accommodating a potentially valuable client and proceeding with the already ongoing termination process. "Of course, Mrs. Bennett. If you can wait a few minutes, I'll check his availability." Robert disappeared toward his office. Through the glass walls, Amanda could see a tense conversation between him and Tyler. Minutes later, the young salesman appeared, looking confused but relieved. "Mrs. Bennett, what a surprise. Mr. Mitchell said you wanted to be assisted by me." "Exactly, Tyler. I want to see the trucks again and discuss some technical details before making my final decision." As they walked through the showroom, Tyler displayed technical knowledge he hadn't shown during their first meeting. He explained each model's features in detail, comparing them honestly, and even mentioning areas where competitors might have advantages. "Why are you being fired, Tyler?" Amanda asked abruptly when they were alone between two trucks. The salesman paled. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter. I want to know the reason." Tyler glanced around to ensure they wouldn't be overheard. "On Friday, a woman in her 70s came in looking for a car for her grandson starting college. Paul began treating her condescendingly like we did with you." He swallowed hard. "After our conversation at the restaurant, I couldn't stay quiet. I stepped in and ended up arguing with Paul in front of customers. Robert was furious." "I see. And do you regret intervening?" "Not at all. I only regret not realizing sooner how wrong that behavior was." He paused. "Did you come here to watch me get fired?" Amanda allowed herself a small smile. "No, Tyler. I came here to decide where to buy my trucks, and in a way, to give a second chance. Not just to you, but to myself." "How so?" "I've also judged people by appearances. When my ex-husband left, many doubted a woman alone could manage a farm that size. I resented it so much that I started judging all men in suits as arrogant and shallow without giving them a chance to prove otherwise." Tyler nodded in understanding. "So what have you decided about the trucks? I need to speak with Mr. Mitchell. Could you call him, please?" In Robert's office, Amanda was direct. "I'm inclined to accept your proposal, Mr. Mitchell, but with some conditions. We're open to negotiation, Mrs. Noguera. It's not about financial conditions. First, I want Tyler to be my designated salesperson for this and future transactions." Robert seemed uncomfortable. "Ms. Bennett, I should inform you that we're re-evaluating Tyler's position on our team due to a recent incident." "I'm aware of it, and my second condition is that he not be fired for defending an elderly client against disrespectful treatment." "How did you find out?" "Third condition, I want your dealership to develop and implement a training program on respectful and unbiased customer service for the entire team, and I want to be invited to give a talk during that training, sharing the customer's perspective." Robert fell silent for a few moments, weighing the situation. The sale of 10 trucks would be the dealership's largest of the year, and the prestige of having Sunrise Valley Farm as a client would bring other important business. "Your conditions are acceptable, Ms. Bennett. I can guarantee Tyler will remain your designated salesperson and will begin developing the training you suggested." "Excellent. In that case, I accept your proposal. My accountant will reach out this week to finalize the financing details once our tax issue is resolved." As she left Robert's office, Amanda found Tyler anxiously waiting in the hallway. "So?" he asked. "It looks like you'll keep your job, Tyler, and you'll have plenty of work ahead with our truck purchase." The relief on the young man's face was visible. "I don't know how to thank you, Ms. Bennett, so don't thank me. Just remember this lesson and pay it forward." On her way out, Amanda spotted Tracy at reception, who gave her a knowing smile. She returned it discreetly and headed to her meeting at the bank. On the way, she reflected on her decision. She had chosen to give a second chance not just to Tyler, but to the dealership itself. In the process, she might have contributed to a small shift in their workplace culture. It was a good feeling, different from the bitter satisfaction she would have felt if she had simply punished those who had humiliated her. She remembered her mother's words: "Hardness for the ignorant, softness for those who deserve it." Perhaps true wisdom lay in recognizing when someone deserved that softness, even after a serious mistake. That was what she would strive to do from now on. On her way to the bank, her phone rang. It was Mary. "So, did you close the deal with Rightway?" "Actually, I decided to stick with American Roots." "What? After what they did?" Amanda smiled as she stopped at the traffic light. "It's a long story, Mary. I'll tell you when we meet. But let's just say sometimes a second chance is worth giving, especially when it can bring positive change beyond just our own benefit." "You've always been wiser than me, my friend," Mary replied with a sigh. "I just hope you don't regret it." "Me too, Mary, me too." As the light turned green, Amanda felt a sense of peace. She had made the right choice, not just for her business, but for her own personal journey of growth. And maybe, just maybe, for a few other people's journeys too. Over the next 2 weeks, Amanda split her time between resolving the tax issue and preparing for harvest. The additional documentation had been submitted to the Internal Revenue Service, and now it was just a matter of waiting. Robert from the Agricultural Bank kept her updated on the conditional loan approval process. Meanwhile, Tyler called almost daily to update her on the truck purchase details. The young salesman seemed determined to prove he deserved the second chance he'd been given. With each call, he grew more knowledgeable about the technical specifications and more attentive to the farm's specific needs. During one of these calls, Tyler brought unexpected news. "Mrs. Bennett, Mr. Mitchell asked me to inform you that we've started developing the training on respectful service as you requested. He'd like to know if you'd be available to give the talk this Friday." "So soon?" Amanda couldn't hide her surprise. "I thought it would take longer." "Mr. Mitchell believes it's urgent." "Actually," Tyler hesitated for a moment, "ever since word spread about what happened to you, we've lost 3 major agribusiness clients. Your talk would be part of a larger effort to regain the sector's trust." Amanda felt a mix of satisfaction and skepticism. On one hand, it was positive that the dealership was taking its commitment to cultural change seriously. On the other, it seemed more like a desperate reaction to stop losing clients than a genuine shift in values. "Tell Mr. Mitchell I'll accept, but with one additional condition. I want all the salespeople and managers to spend a day visiting my farm to understand the reality of rural work. Only then can they truly value their clients in this sector." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. "I'll pass along your message, Mrs. Bennett. I'm sure Mr. Mitchell will agree." The response came the next day. Robert Mitchell not only accepted the condition, but suggested making the farm visit an official part of the training. The date was set for the following Saturday, one day after Amanda's talk at the dealership. That Thursday, as Amanda oversaw the final maintenance of the harvest equipment, her phone rang. It was Andrew, her accountant, with the news she'd been waiting for. "Amanda, the tax issue has been resolved. I just got the notification from the IRS. Your EIN is fully cleared." The relief was immediate. With this settled, the financing for the trucks would be approved without a hitch. "Great news, Andrew. Notify Robert at the bank right away and prepare the paperwork so we can finalize the purchase tomorrow, right after my commitment at the dealership." "Consider it done. And congratulations, Amanda. I know how important this international contract is for the farm." When she hung up, Amanda allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The pieces were falling into place. With the truck secured, she could meet the delivery schedule for the contract with the Japanese buyers without any hiccups. Sunrise Valley Farm would finally make the leap she'd been planning for years. The next morning, as she got ready to go to the dealership, Amanda hesitated in front of her closet. She had set aside her usual outfit, pants, a light shirt, and her straw hat, but now she wondered if she should dress more businesslike for the talk. After a few minutes of reflection, she decided to stay true to herself. If the goal was to fight prejudice based on appearance, nothing was more fitting than presenting herself exactly as she did every day. When she arrived at the dealership, she was greeted by Tracy, who led her to a meeting room where about 20 employees were waiting. Robert Mitchell came to welcome her personally. "Mrs. Bennett, I don't have the words to express our gratitude for accepting this invitation, especially after," he hesitated, "the initial circumstances of our interaction." Amanda noticed all the salespeople were present, including Paul and Michael, who looked uncomfortable. Tyler, on the other hand, showed genuine interest. "Before we begin, Mr. Mitchell, I'd like to say something," Amanda said. "I'm not here to shame anyone or relive unpleasant situations. I'm here because I believe all of us, myself included, have something to learn about respect and snap judgments." With those words, the tension in the room seemed to ease slightly. Amanda began her talk by briefly sharing her journey. The daughter of farmers, an agronomy graduate, who took full control of the family business after her husband stepped away. She spoke about the challenges of being a woman in a predominantly male industry and how prejudice often manifested in subtle yet impactful ways. "When I walked into this dealership for the first time, it wasn't the first time I'd faced skeptical looks or condescending remarks," she explained. "But it was the first time I felt so openly humiliated in a professional setting. And the saddest part is that this happens daily to countless people in countless establishments." Amanda then addressed the central theme of her speech: the cost of prejudice, both human and commercial. "You lost a sale of 10 trucks that day, but the real cost was far greater: the trust of an entire community. When we treat someone with disdain based on their appearance, we're not just being morally wrong, we're being terrible professionals." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. For 40 minutes, Amanda shared not only her personal experience, but also stories of other farmers, men and women, who had faced similar situations. She concluded by offering practical suggestions on how to create a genuinely respectful service environment. When she finished, the silence in the room was palpable. It was Robert who broke it, standing up to thank her. "Ms. Bennett, your talk was extremely impactful and enlightening. I'd like to open the floor for questions or comments from the team." To everyone's surprise, Paul, one of the salesmen who had treated her poorly, was the first to raise his hand. "Ms. Bennett, first I want to apologize for my behavior. It was inexcusable." He paused, visibly uncomfortable. "But I have an honest question. How do you suggest we handle clients who, with all due respect, genuinely can't afford the products we sell? There are cases where people come in looking for $400,000 trucks when their budget barely covers a used one for $100,000. Amanda appreciated the honesty of the question. "That's an excellent point, Paul. The difference lies in how you assess those conditions. If you're basing your judgment on the clothes someone wears, their accent, or the car they drive, you're making a serious mistake. But if, after a respectful conversation, where you genuinely listen to the client's needs and explain the available options, It becomes clear there's a mismatch between expectations and budget, then you're doing your job correctly. The answer seemed to satisfy not just Paul but several others in the room, who nodded in agreement. After a few more questions, Robert wrapped up the session by reaffirming the dealership's commitment to change. He officially announced the visit to Sunrise Valley Farm the next day and made it clear that attendance was mandatory for all sales staff. When the meeting ended, Tyler approached Amanda. "Your talk was incredible, Ms. Bennett. Truly impactful." "Thank you, Tyler. I hope it was helpful." "It definitely was. I just have one concern about tomorrow." "What's that?" "Paul and Michael, they're reluctant, to say the least. I don't think they're taking this farm visit very seriously." Amanda smiled. "Don't worry. I'm sure it'll be an educational experience for everyone." After the talk, Amanda went straight to the agricultural bank, where Robert was waiting with good news. The financing for the 10 trucks had been approved. With the paperwork signed, she returned to the dealership to finalize the purchase. Robert made sure that Tyler led the entire process, overseeing every detail of the negotiation. By the end of the day, Amanda returned to the farm tired but satisfied. Friday had been more productive than expected. The tax issue resolved, the financing approved, the truck purchase finalized, and perhaps even some seeds of change planted at the dealership. Jack Brown was waiting for her in the office with the final harvest preparation reports. "Everything's ready to start on Monday, Ms. Bennett. The weather forecast is good, and the preliminary samples confirm the excellent quality of the beans." "Great, Jack, and for tomorrow? Is everything organized for the dealership team's visit?" A mischievous smile crossed the foreman's lips. "Exactly as you requested. It's going to be a memorable day for those city boys." The next morning, Amanda woke before dawn as usual. She checked the final details for the visit, and then spent a few hours handling administrative tasks. Around 9 a.m., she heard the sound of a bus approaching on the dirt road leading to the farmhouse. From the porch, she watched the vehicle park, and the dealership employees step out, visibly out of place in their city attire. Robert Mitchell, Tyler, Paul Michael, and 15 other employees looked around with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Amanda went down to greet them. "Welcome to Sunrise Valley Farm," she said with a smile. "I hope you brought comfortable clothes, as I suggested. We're going to have a very active day." Robert stepped forward, extending his hand. "Mrs. Bennett, thank you again for this opportunity. I admit most of us have never been to a coffee farm before. Then it'll be doubly enriching. Please follow me to the barn. There you can change and receive instructions for the day." In the large barn that served as the farm's operational center, Jack Brown waited with several other workers. Stacks of simple but suitable work clothes were laid out. Sturdy pants, long-sleeved shirts for sun protection, straw hats and rubber boots. "These will be your work clothes today," Amanda explained. "You can change in the locker rooms at the back, then Jack will go over the day's schedule." Paul, the salesman who had questioned her during the presentation, looked at the clothes with obvious discomfort. "Work? I thought this was a guided tour like a sightseeing thing." "And it is," Amanda replied with a calm smile. "A full tour of the reality of farm work. After all, how can you understand and respect your agribusiness clients if you don't experience their world firsthand?" With no other choice, the visitors headed to the locker rooms. When they returned, the transformation was striking. From well-dressed executives, they had become typical farm workers, complete with straw hats like the one Amanda always wore. "Now we're ready," Jack exclaimed, clapping his hands to get their attention. "Let's begin our day. First, we'll visit the coffee plantations where harvesting starts Monday. Then you'll see the bean processing. And finally, you'll get to experience some of the daily work by helping prepare the drying patios." The group followed in 2 pickup trucks along the farm's paths. As they drove, Amanda explained the property's layout. Over 700 acres dedicated to growing specialty Arabica coffee, using sustainable soil management and biological pest control. The first stop was a vast coffee field, where bushes laden with red fruit stretched as far as the eye could see. Amanda invited everyone to step out of the vehicles. "This is the heart of Sunrise Valley Farm," she said, pride evident in her voice. "We cultivate specific varieties we've developed over 3 generations. The coffee we produce here is considered among the finest in the U.S., and has controlled origin certification. Robert Mitchell seemed genuinely impressed. "This is truly magnificent, Mrs. Bennett. I never imagined an operation of this scale. And this is just the beginning. Let's walk between the rows so you can see up close." The sun was already high when they entered the coffee plantation. Amanda demonstrated how to identify fruits at the ideal ripening stage and explained the selective harvesting process that ensured the product's superior quality. "Next week, we'll have over 200 workers here, carefully picking each fruit. We don't use mechanical harvesting for these special varieties." Paul, who seemed increasingly interested, asked, "And how do you ensure quality with so many people involved?" "Training, constant supervision, and above all, respect for the workers," Amanda replied. "Many have been with us for decades. They know this process as well as I do." After touring the plantations, the group moved to the processing facility. There, Amanda detailed each step of bean processing: pulping, controlled fermentation, washing, drying, and grading. "It's a complex and meticulous process," she explained. "Every decision made here directly affects the final quality of the brew." The sophistication of the infrastructure seemed to surprise the visitors. The processing facility was equipped with cutting-edge technology, computerized temperature and humidity control, and a lab for sensory analysis of the beans. "We constantly invest in technology and training," Amanda continued. "Specialty coffee is an extremely competitive market. To maintain our position, we must always stay one step ahead." Tyler, who had paid close attention to every explanation, asked, "And the trucks you're acquiring, how do they fit into this operation?" "An excellent question," Amanda replied. "With the international contract we secured, we need to ensure the coffee reaches the port of Oakland on schedule and in perfect condition. Having our own fleet gives us logistical independence and quality control all the way to shipment." Around noon, the group was led to a large covered area where tables had been set for lunch. The meal, served family-style, featured classic rural dishes: rice, beans, roasted meat, cassava, fresh vegetable salad from the farm's garden, and natural juices. "This is the lunch our workers enjoy daily," Amanda explained. "We believe good food is essential for the team's well-being and productivity." During the meal, the atmosphere grew more relaxed. The dealership employees began asking questions, not just about the farm, but also about Amanda's personal journey. "Have you always worked in coffee?" asked Tracy, who had been invited on the visit after playing a key role in bringing Amanda and Tyler together. "I practically grew up in the coffee fields," Amanda replied with a nostalgic smile. "My father took me to the crops as a child, but I also studied. I'm an agronomist specializing in special crop development. When my father passed 15 years ago, I took over the farm's technical management alongside my husband. After we separated 8 years ago, I assumed full control of the property." "Was it difficult?" asked Michael, who had remained relatively quiet until then. "Taking over alone, I mean." "I won't lie, it was extremely challenging. Many suppliers, clients, even banks seemed to doubt my ability simply because I was a woman. I had to prove my worth repeatedly." She paused, looking directly at Paul and Michael. "That's why situations like the one I experienced at the dealership are so painful. They reopen old wounds." An awkward silence settled for a few moments, until Tyler remarked, "Well, I think we can all learn from past mistakes. What matters is moving forward with greater awareness." Amanda nodded, appreciating the maturity of his comment. After lunch came the part Jack had described as memorable: the hands-on work experience. The group was divided into teams and assigned different tasks related to preparing the drying patios, large concrete areas where the coffee would be spread to dry in the sun. "The patios need to be impeccably clean before the first batches of coffee arrive," Jack explained, handing out brooms, mops, and buckets. "Any dirt or residue can compromise the quality." For men accustomed to spending their days in an air-conditioned showroom, working under the early afternoon sun was a true test of endurance. Robert, at 50, was the first to show signs of fatigue but bravely pushed through. Paul and Michael, initially reluctant, ended up throwing themselves into the task with surprising dedication. Tyler, on the other hand, seemed determined to impress. He worked tirelessly, constantly asking if he was doing it right and offering to help colleagues who were struggling. After 2 hours of intense work, Amanda called everyone for a break. Fresh water and fruit were served in the shade of a large mango tree. "How are you all feeling?" she asked, noticing their flushed and sweaty faces. "With a newfound respect for farm work, that's for sure," Robert replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "I never imagined it would be so physically demanding. And this is just a fraction of what our workers do daily," Amanda commented. "During harvest, they start before sunrise and continue until dusk, with regular breaks, of course. It's hard. Work that requires skill, endurance, and dedication." Paul, sitting apart with a thoughtful expression, suddenly spoke up. "Ms. Bennett, I think I'm starting to understand what you meant in your talk. It's not just about treating people with basic courtesy. It's about truly valuing their work and their reality." "Exactly, Paul. It's about recognizing the inherent dignity in every profession and every person, regardless of appearance or background." The afternoon continued with visits to the farm's administrative areas, where Amanda showed how modern management integrated with traditional practices. Her administrative team, mostly composed of local women from the community who had received specialized training, impressed the visitors with their efficiency and professionalism. "We've invested heavily in education and professional development," Amanda explained. "Many of these women started as field workers or homemakers with no formal experience. Today, they're skilled professionals managing crucial aspects of our business." The late afternoon brought the moment everyone had been waiting for, the coffee tasting. In the cupping room, equipped like a professional lab, Emily, the farm's roast master, led a detailed session on the sensory characteristics of the different coffee batches produced on the property. "Coffee is like wine," she explained, as the visitors observed the ritual of cupping, the professional tasting process. Each variety, each harvest, each processing method results in distinct flavor profiles. Our job is to ensure those characteristics are preserved and highlighted. Even the most skeptical in the group seemed genuinely fascinated by the process. Robert, in particular, appeared completely absorbed, taking notes and asking detailed questions. As the sun began to set, the group gathered on the porch of the main house for a moment of reflection before heading back to the city. Amanda had prepared a surprise, personalized participation certificates for the Farmers' Day event for each visitor. "This isn't just a keepsake," she explained as she handed out the certificates. "It's a reminder of the commitment we made today to build relationships based on mutual respect and understanding." Robert, visibly moved, spoke on behalf of the group. "Mrs. Bennett, I don't have the words to express how transformative this experience has been. We came here thinking we'd visit a farm, but what we really discovered was a philosophy of life and work that has so much to teach us. On behalf of American Roots, I want to reaffirm our commitment to the change you've inspired in us." Paul, who had been one of the most arrogant during his first meeting with Amanda, stepped forward. "I, in particular, want to apologize once again. What I witnessed today completely changed my perspective. You're not just an important client, you're an inspiration." Amanda, usually reserved with her emotions, felt genuinely touched. "Thank you all for your openness and willingness. This is just the beginning of what I hope will be a long and fruitful partnership." On Monday morning, Amanda was in her office, reviewing the harvest schedule when she received a call from Tyler. "Good morning, Mrs. Bennett. I have good news about the trucks. The factory just confirmed they can move up the delivery of the first 3 to next week, instead of the end of the month as originally planned." "That's excellent, Tyler. It'll be a huge help with the start of harvest transportation." "And there's more," he continued excitedly. "Mr. Mitchell asked me to let you know we're organizing a special event for the official fleet handover. We'd like to hold it at Sunrise Valley Farm, if you'll allow it. It would be an opportunity to invite other local producers and showcase the dealership's new approach to the agricultural sector." Amanda hesitated for a moment. The idea of turning the truck delivery into a promotional event hadn't been part of her original plan. On the other hand, it could be a chance to strengthen ties with other producers and solidify the changes she'd initiated at the dealership. "That sounds interesting, Tyler, but we'll need to plan carefully so it doesn't interfere with the harvest." "Of course, Mrs. Bennett. We can adapt everything to your schedule." Mr. Mitchell suggested next Saturday when the first 3 trucks will be ready. It would just be for a few hours in the afternoon. In that case, I think we can make it work. Have Mr. Mitchell contact me directly so we can finalize the details. After hanging up, Amanda reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. From a humiliated client, she had become a valued business partner, one whose property would now host a major corporate event. It was a significant shift, but would it last, or was it just a temporary reaction driven by immediate business interests? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Melissa, her secretary. "Mrs. Bennett, Mr. Morrison from the cooperative is on the line. He says it's urgent." Charles Morrison was the president of the Specialty Coffee Producers, cooperative and an important ally in Amanda's business. "Charles, good morning. What's so urgent?" "Amanda, are you going to the Sacramento Agricultural Expo this Wednesday?" The Agricultural Expo was the region's biggest industry event, bringing together producers, suppliers, and buyers from across the country. "Yes, it's on my schedule. Why?" "I just found out you'll be honored as Female Producer of the Year. The committee asked me to keep it absolutely confidential, but I thought you should know so you can prepare. You'll need to give a short thank you speech." Amanda was momentarily speechless. The Producer of the Year award was the highest honor in the regional coffee industry, traditionally given to major figures in the field, mostly men. "Tyler, I don't know what to say." "Say you accept," he laughed. "It's more than well-deserved." "Amanda, your farm has revolutionized the specialty coffee market in recent years, and between us, breaking that glass ceiling will do wonders for other women in the industry." After hanging up, Amanda sat for a few minutes absorbing the news. Amid the challenges of the past few days, this recognition felt like validation for all her years of effort. Without wasting time, she called Mary to share the news. "Mary, you won't believe it. If it's about the Female Producer of the Year award, I already know," her friend interrupted, excited. "I was on the selection committee and had to bite my tongue to keep from telling you." "You sneak," Amanda laughed. "That's why you kept insisting I couldn't miss the expo." "Exactly, so have you thought about what you'll wear, what you'll say?" "To be honest, I'm still in shock. I didn't expect this, especially now with all the pressure of harvest and the international contract. But that's exactly why, Amanda. You landed that international contract when so many producers are struggling just to survive. Your farm management has become a benchmark in the industry. And frankly, it was long past time for a woman to receive this recognition." Over the next 2 days, while overseeing the start of harvest, Amanda split her time between her usual responsibilities and preparing for the ceremony. With Melissa's help, she drafted a short thank you speech that touched on her journey as a woman in agribusiness, while acknowledging her team's support and her parents' legacy. On Wednesday, she wore her best outfit, linen pants, a silk blouse and a light blazer, but kept the straw hat, now almost a personal symbol. She drove to Sacramento with Jack Brown and Emily, who insisted on being there for the ceremony. The Sacramento Agricultural Expo filled a large convention center in the heart of the city. Booths showcasing farm machinery, supplies, technology, and financial services drew crowds of visitors. Amanda spent some time walking the aisles, greeting acquaintances, and checking out industry innovations. Around 2 p.m., she headed to the main auditorium for the awards ceremony. As she entered, she was surprised to see Robert Mitchell, Tyler, and to her shock, Paul and Michael seated in the 3rd row. Tyler spotted her and gave a discreet wave. Charles Morrison, as president of the cooperative and the event's MC, opened the ceremony with a speech on innovation and sustainability in modern coffee farming. After a few minor awards, the main moment arrived. "And now, I have the honor of announcing the 2024 Producer of the Year winner. A woman who transformed a traditional farm into an international benchmark for specialty coffee, who overcame bias and obstacles to set new standards in quality and management, who just secured the largest direct export contract in our region's history. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to Amanda Bennett of Sunrise Valley Farm." The ovation was thunderous. Amanda walked to the stage feeling a mix of pride and humility. Scanning the crowd, she saw familiar faces, fellow producers, farm staff, and in that third row, the men who had recently doubted she could even buy a single truck. After receiving the trophy from Charles, Amanda approached the microphone. "I deeply appreciate this honor. This award isn't just mine. It belongs to the entire team at Sunrise Valley Farm. From the field workers to the administrative staff, from the technicians to the agronomists, each one contributed to where we are today." She paused, looking directly at where the dealership group was seated. "Over the years, I've learned that a person's true worth isn't in their appearance, title, or the clothes they wear. It's in their knowledge, dedication, and above all, their respect for others' work and dignity. In agribusiness, as in any other sector, we must overcome prejudice and snap judgments if we want to build a truly prosperous and inclusive future." As she concluded her speech, Amanda received another standing ovation. Stepping off the stage, she was immediately surrounded by fellow producers and members of the press. Amid handshakes and hugs, she noticed Robert Mitchell trying to approach, but the crowd made it difficult. It wasn't until an hour later, when the commotion had settled slightly, that Tyler managed to reach her. "Mrs. Bennett, congratulations on the award. Truly well-deserved." "Thank you, Tyler. I was surprised to see you all here. Mr. Mitchell insisted we come. He said it would be a learning opportunity for the whole team." He hesitated for a moment. "Do you have a few minutes? There's something I'd like to share." Intrigued, Amanda agreed to follow him to a quieter corner of the lobby. There, Tyler showed her something on his tablet, a complete redesign proposal for the dealership's sales department. "After our visit to the farm, Mr. Mitchell asked me to lead an initiative to transform our service model. We're creating a specialized agribusiness division, with training tailored to the sector's needs." He swiped to the next slide. "And the best part, half the team will be women. We've already started the selection process." Amanda examined the proposal with growing interest. "This is truly impressive, Tyler. It seems like a genuine shift in philosophy." "It is. Mr. Mitchell realized we were losing a valuable market segment due to pure prejudice and ignorance. But beyond the business aspect, I think many of us had a personal awakening after meeting you and visiting the farm." At that moment, Robert finally managed to approach. He extended his hand to Amanda with a sincere smile. "My sincerest congratulations, Mrs. Bennett. A recognition more than deserved." "Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Tyler was just showing me the new agribusiness division project. It looks very promising. It's a project born directly from our experience with you." He paused, as if carefully choosing his words. "So in 20 years in the automotive industry, I consider our encounter both the most embarrassing and the most transformative moment of my career. I've learned more in these 2 weeks than in years of corporate training." The sincerity in Robert's words was palpable. Amanda nodded, acknowledging the value of that moment of vulnerability. "Sometimes, Mr. Mitchell, setbacks turn into opportunities. I'll admit, when I left the dealership that first day, I never imagined we'd be here now discussing a productive partnership." "By the way," Tyler interjected, "we've confirmed all the details for Saturday's delivery event. If you're agreeable, we'd like to use the occasion to officially announce the new agribusiness division. It would be a symbolic way to show we're truly changing." Amanda considered the proposal. If there was one important lesson from that entire experience, it was about the human capacity to learn and grow from mistakes. Denying this opportunity for public transformation would contradict everything she herself stood for. "I agree. This will be the perfect moment for the announcement." When the day arrived for the delivery of the first trucks, Sunrise Valley Farm was in the middle of harvest season. Amanda Bennett had designated an area near the main house for the event, ensuring it wouldn't interfere with operations. A tent was set up, catering was arranged, and invitations were sent to local producers. The first truck arrived promptly, at 2 p.m., followed by the other two at 15-minute intervals. They were impressive vehicles, customized with the Sunrise Valley Farm logo on the doors. Amanda couldn't help but feel a surge of pride seeing them lined up, symbolizing the expansion of her business. The guests began arriving shortly after. To Amanda's surprise, the event drew far more people than she had expected. Alongside Local producers, representatives from cooperatives, agricultural banks, and even some international buyers who were in the region attended. Robert Mitchell arrived with his entire sales team, including Paul and Michael, who seemed significantly more humble than during their first meeting. Tyler, as had become his habit, carried a folder of documents and an air of professional efficiency. Once everyone was present, Robert took the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today not only to celebrate the delivery of these magnificent vehicles to Sunrise Valley Farm, but also to mark the beginning of a new era for American Roots. He paused, looking directly at Amanda. A few weeks ago, we made a serious mistake. We judged a client by appearances and nearly lost not just an important sale, but the opportunity to serve one of the most respected producers in the region. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Though many already knew the story, hearing the manager himself publicly admit the mistake was surprising. Thanks to Mrs. Bennett's extraordinary generosity, we turned that mistake into a lesson, Robert continued. Today, I'm pleased to officially announce the creation of American Roots Agribusiness Division, a specialized department dedicated to meeting the unique needs of the rural sector, with a team trained to offer respect, technical expertise, and tailored solutions. Applause echoed under the tent. Robert then called Tyler forward, introducing him as the manager of the new division. It's with immense pride that I take on this responsibility, said Tyler, visibly moved, and I promise that the values I've learned from Mrs. Bennett will guide every aspect of our work. Respect, empathy, and genuine appreciation for every client, regardless of appearance or background. Amanda watched the scene with mixed emotions. There was something deeply satisfying about seeing these men's transformation, especially Tyler, who had gone from an arrogant salesman to a conscientious professional committed to real change. When it was her turn to speak, she was brief and direct. These trucks represent much more than an expansion of our logistical capacity. They represent the possibility of growth, not just economic, but human. I thank American Roots for the partnership we're building, and especially for their willingness to turn a difficult moment into an opportunity for growth for all of us. After the speeches, lunch was served, and guests had the chance to inspect the trucks up close. Many producers took the opportunity to speak with the new agribusiness team, sharing their needs and experiences. For Amanda, it was gratifying to see the collaborative spirit that had replaced the initial tension. At one point, she found herself alone with Tyler near one of the trucks. "So, manager of the agribusiness division," she remarked with a smile, "that's a big responsibility. And one I wouldn't have without you," he replied sincerely. "When I think about the arrogant salesman I was just a few weeks ago," he shook his head, "it's almost unbelievable. People can change, Tyler. Sometimes they just need the right opportunity. You know what impressed me most about this whole experience?" he continued thoughtfully. "It wasn't just the lesson about respect and snap judgments. It was seeing how you turned a negative situation into something positive for everyone involved, instead of just punishing us by boycotting. The dealership, you chose a path that led to growth." Amanda reflected on his words. Indeed, her decision to give the dealership a second chance had resulted in changes that would benefit many other farmers. If she had chosen retaliation, that transformation might never have happened. Sometimes, Tyler, true strength isn't about destroying those who hurt us, but helping them rebuild into something better. As the event wound down and guests began to leave, Amanda couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. The challenges of the past weeks, the humiliation at the dealership, the tax issue, the pressure of the international contract, had all turned into opportunities for growth. Looking at the 3 gleaming trucks now part of her fleet, she understood they represented not just a material achievement, but a symbol of a journey that had touched many lives, including her own. As the last guest departed, Jack Brown approached. "The drivers are ready, Ms. Bennett. We can start preparing the trucks for the first shipment tomorrow morning." "Excellent, Jack," she smiled, placing a hand on the foreman's shoulder. "It seems everything is finally falling into place. You always knew it would work out. Even when those salesmen treated you poorly, you didn't let it break you." "Maybe." Amanda gazed at the horizon, where the coffee plantations stretched in, perfect rows. "But I also learned something important in all this. Sometimes giving someone a second chance is giving ourselves a second chance." To be better than we thought we could be. Jack nodded with an understanding smile and walked away to oversee, the crew already preparing the trucks for work. Amanda lingered for a few minutes, taking in her farm and the new vehicles that symbolized the promising future she had built through so much effort. At that moment, she felt a deep certainty. Whatever challenge came next, she would face it, not with arrogance or resentment, but with the same blend of strength and compassion that had turned humiliation into a story of growth and redemption. In the following weeks, Sunrise Valley Farm operated at full speed. The harvest progressed as planned, and the first 3 trucks were already hard at work, transporting coffee to the warehouse in Oakland. The international contract schedule was being followed meticulously, much to Amanda's relief. The impact of her Female Producer of the Year award and the story of her experience at the dealership had spread beyond regional borders. Amanda received invitations to speak at industry events and even to participate in a documentary about women in agribusiness. Though flattered, she stayed focused on her immediate priorities, ensuring the success of the harvest and fulfilling the contract. On a particularly busy morning, while overseeing the loading of the second batch of coffee for export, Amanda received an unexpected call. It was Catherine Thompson, the representative of the Japanese company that had secured the international contract. "Mrs. Bennett, good morning. I'm calling to let you know I'll be in the US next week and would love to visit your farm if possible." "It would be a pleasure to host you, Mrs. Thompson," Amanda replied, surprised by the unplanned visit. "Is there a specific reason for your trip?" There was a brief hesitation on the other end of the line. "Actually, yes, we received the first shipment and the analysis results were surprising. I'd like to discuss this in person." Amanda's heart raced. Surprising could mean many things, not all of them good. "Of course, when exactly will you arrive?" "I'll be in Los Angeles on Tuesday and could come to Sacramento on Wednesday. Would that work?" "Perfectly. I'll arrange for you to be picked up at the airport." After ending the call, Amanda immediately summoned Emily, her head roaster, for an urgent meeting. "Emily, the representative from Thompson Coffee, is coming next week. She said the analysis results from the first batch were surprising. We need to check if there's any issue." Emily, a woman in her 40s with over 2 decades of experience in coffee grading, looked puzzled. "That's odd. The batches we sent passed all our quality checks. They were perfect, meeting all the specifications they requested. Still, I want us to run a full analysis on the samples we kept from that batch and prepare a detailed report of the entire process from harvest to shipment." "I'll start right away, Mrs. Bennett." In the following days, a quiet unease settled over Amanda. The contract with Thompson Coffee was the largest the farm had ever secured, and any problem could have devastating consequences. Beyond the financial aspect, there was the reputation built over years of hard work. On Monday, the day before Thompson's arrival, Emily brought the analysis results. "Everything is absolutely within specifications, Mrs. Bennett. We reanalyzed the samples 3 times using different methods. The batch was flawless when it left here." "That eases my mind a little, but it still doesn't explain Mrs. Thompson's comment. Surprising can mean many things." "Maybe she was pleasantly surprised," Emily suggested, trying to lighten the tension evident in her boss. "Perhaps. We'll only know when she arrives." That night, Amanda struggled to sleep. She mentally reviewed every aspect of the contract, the harvest, the processing, and the transportation, searching for possible flaws. The coffee had been harvested at peak ripeness, processed with their usual care, and transported in controlled conditions in the new trucks. What could have gone wrong? On Wednesday, Amanda sent Tyler to pick up Catherine Thompson from the Sacramento airport. The choice wasn't random. Since becoming manager of the dealership's agribusiness division, Tyler had become an important ally, and his presence could be useful if logistics were discussed. When the car pulled into the farm's main courtyard, Amanda stepped out to personally greet her visitor. Catherine Thompson, a poised, middle-aged Japanese executive with a serene expression, greeted her with a slight bow, followed by a firm handshake. "Welcome to Sunrise Valley Farm, Mrs. Thompson. I hope you had a pleasant trip." Excellent, thank you. Mr. Tyler was extremely attentive during the drive. Amanda guided the visitor to her office, where a typical Brazilian breakfast had been prepared: cheese bread, fresh fruit, cornmeal cake, and of course coffee from the farm itself. After the initial greetings and a brief conversation about the trip, Amanda decided to address the reason for the visit directly. Mrs. Thompson, I must admit I've been a little anxious since our phone call. You mentioned surprising results in the analysis of the first batch. Is there something wrong with the coffee we sent? Catherine set her cup down on the table and smiled, a gesture that immediately eased the tension Amanda had carried for days. There's nothing wrong at all, Mrs. Bennett. Quite the opposite. The results were surprising in the best possible way. The coffee we received far exceeded the contract specifications in terms of sensory quality. Our analysts were impressed. Amanda felt a wave of relief wash over her. That's wonderful to hear. We were worried there might be an issue. Actually, that's why I came in person, Catherine continued. Thompson Coffee is interested in significantly expanding our contract. We'd like to increase our purchase volume by 40% and establish a long-term exclusive partnership. The proposal caught Amanda completely off guard. A 40% increase in volume would mean utilizing nearly the farm's full production capacity and would require additional infrastructure investments. That's extremely interesting, Mrs. Thompson, but an increase of that scale would require some adjustments on our part. We'd need to acquire more land to expand cultivation, hire more staff. We fully understand. That's why, in addition to the increased purchase volume, we're willing to offer a significant advance to finance this expansion, and of course an adjustment in the price per bag. The implications of that proposal were enormous. If realized, it wouldn't just mean financial security for the coming years, it would also be the opportunity to expand the farm in a way Amanda had dreamed of, but considered still far off. I could deeply appreciate your offer, Mrs. Thompson. I'll need a few days to review it properly and consult my team. Of course, I'll be in the US for another week. We can revisit this conversation when you're ready. After Catherine left, heading off for a farm tour accompanied by Emily, Amanda remained in her office, trying to process what had just happened. Conflicting emotions overwhelmed her: euphoria at the validation of her work, apprehension at the scale of the proposed expansion, and a sudden awareness of the responsibility this decision carried. She decided she needed trusted advice. She called Mary, who answered on the first ring. "Mary, I need your opinion on something important." The representative from Thompson Coffee came today and proposed a massive expansion of the contract. When she finished explaining the situation, there was a brief silence on the other end of the line. "Amanda, this is incredible. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But I understand your hesitation. It's a big step." "It's more than that, Mary. If I accept, I'll have to buy that land that belonged to Jonathan, adjacent to the farm. It's the only way to expand the coffee plantations contiguously." There was a loaded pause. Jonathan Miller was the older brother of Paul, Amanda's ex-husband. After the separation, relations between Amanda and the Miller family had completely deteriorated. Jonathan in particular had been vocal in his criticism of Amanda's ability to run the farm alone. "Oh, now I see your concern," Mary replied. "Negotiating with Jonathan won't be easy, especially once he knows you really need that land." "Exactly. And you know he never accepted that the farm prospered under my management after Paul left. He'll try to exploit the situation as much as possible." "Maybe, but you also have cards up your sleeve, Amanda. The award as Female Producer of the Year, the international contract. Your bargaining position is much stronger now." "You're right. Either way, I need to think carefully before making any decision." The next morning, Amanda decided to consult Andrew, her accountant, to analyze the financial aspects of the proposed expansion. With his usual thoroughness, Andrew promised to have a complete analysis ready in 2 days. Meanwhile, Amanda received a call from Tyler, who had returned to the dealership after taking Catherine to her hotel in Sacramento. "Mrs. Bennett, how was the meeting?" Mrs. Thompson seemed quite impressed during our conversation in the car. "It was surprisingly positive, Tyler. So positive that I now have a tough decision ahead." Amanda hesitated for a moment before continuing. "Actually, I need your help with something. Do you know Jonathan Miller? The cattle rancher? Yes, he's a client at the dealership. He bought 3 pickups from us last year. And how is your relationship with him? Strictly professional. He's demanding, let's say, but I've always treated him with courtesy. Why? Amanda briefly explained the situation, without going into details about her personal history with the Miller family. I see, Tyler said when she finished. Would you like me to discreetly find out if he'd be willing to sell the land? That would be very helpful. I don't want to approach him directly without some idea of his intentions, and I definitely don't want him to know at this point that I'm considering an expansion. Leave it to me. I'll try to get that information casually. In the following days, Amanda split her time between overseeing the ongoing harvest, analyzing the financial details of the Japanese proposal with Andrew, and growing anxiety about the possible negotiation with Jonathan. She felt at a crossroads. The opportunity Thompson Coffee offered was exceptional, but it depended on factors partly beyond her control. On Friday, she received 2 phone calls that would shape her decision. The first was from Andrew. Amanda, I've finished the financial analysis of the proposal. The numbers are excellent, even considering the necessary investments for expansion, including buying land at 30% above market price. The profitability of the extended contract would still be substantially positive. The advance payment from the Japanese would cover about 60% of the initial costs, and the rest could be financed under favorable terms due to the long-term contract. That's encouraging, Andrew. But it all depends on whether we can acquire Jonathan's land. I understand. Still, from a strictly financial standpoint, my recommendation is clear. If you can get the land under reasonable conditions, move forward. The second call came from Tyler a few hours later. Mrs. Bennett, I have some information about Mr. Miller. I managed to speak with him yesterday when he came to the dealership for a pickup service. And? The news is mixed. From what I gathered, he is indeed considering selling the land adjacent to your farm. Apparently, he's focusing his investments on a larger property in Montana. However, he mentioned in passing that certain neighbors would have to pay dearly if they wanted to expand. He didn't mention your name directly, but the implication was clear. Amanda sighed. It was exactly what she feared. Jonathan would use the sale as a form of personal revenge, trying to extract an exorbitant price once he realized her need. I see. Thank you for the information, Tyler. It was very helpful. There's one more thing, Mrs. Bennett. During our conversation, I noticed that Mr. Miller is very interested in acquiring a new truck model for his operation in Montana. It's a special vehicle with specific configurations for livestock transport. We only have 2 available and there's a waiting list. And do you think this could be used as a bargaining chip? Not directly, of course. That would be unethical. But perhaps we can create a mutually beneficial situation. How so? Let me think a bit more and I'll call you back. I believe I have an idea that might work. When she hung up, Amanda felt a flicker of hope. If there was a way to negotiate with Jonathan that didn't involve simply giving in to his disproportionate financial demands, maybe the expansion could really be feasible. On Saturday morning, as she walked through the coffee plantations watching the harvesters at work, Amanda received another call from Tyler. Mrs. Bennett, I think I've found a solution. I'm organizing an exclusive event at the dealership for the launch of the new truck model I mentioned. Only selected clients will be invited, and they'll have priority to purchase. I'd like to invite you, and with your permission, Mr. Miller as well. A social event where we'd meet by chance? Exactly. A neutral setting without the pressure of a formal negotiation. You could casually mention your expansion plans, and I'd make sure Mr. Miller gets the opportunity to buy the truck. He wants, without directly suggesting an exchange. Amanda considered the proposal for a moment. The approach was subtle and smart, creating a favorable context for a conversation that would otherwise likely be tense and unproductive. When would this event be? Next Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's the only day I could confirm the attendance of the manufacturer's national director, which will add even more prestige to the event. I'll be there. And thank you for thinking of this solution, Tyler. I'm happy to help, Mrs. Bennett. After all, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't even still be at the dealership, much less as a division manager. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Tuesday arrived quickly. Amanda decided to dress slightly more formal than usual, opting for dress pants, a silk blouse, and a light blazer, but she kept the straw hat, now almost like a trademark. Before leaving the farm, she received a call from Catherine Thompson. Mrs. Bennett, I hope I'm not pressuring you, but I'd like to know if you have any updates on our proposal. I'm returning to Japan on Friday. Actually, Mrs. Thompson, I'm working on some necessary arrangements to make the expansion viable. I believe I'll have a definitive answer by Thursday. Would it be possible for us to meet that day? Certainly, I'll wait for your call. When she arrived at the American Roots dealership, Amanda was immediately greeted by Tyler, who looked impeccable in a dark suit. Welcome, Mrs. Bennett. The event has already started, and Mr. Miller arrived about 10 minutes ago. He's talking with the manufacturer's director near the display model. The dealership space had been transformed for the event. Strategically placed lights highlighted the imposing truck at the center of the showroom, while waiters circulated, with canapes and champagne. A small group of agribusiness executives, all important clients of the dealership, chatted in small clusters. Jonathan Miller wasn't hard to spot. Tall, broad-shouldered, with graying hair and a thick mustache, he exuded the confidence of someone used to being the center of attention. He wore a suit that seemed slightly tight, and his booming laugh could be heard above the general chatter. Amanda took a deep breath, mentally preparing herself for the encounter. The memories of Jonathan's criticism after her separation were still painful. He had been one of the most vocal in predicting the failure of the farm under her management, even offering to buy the property before she completely ruined it. "Shall we?" asked Tyler, noticing her hesitation. "Yes, let's take the bull by the horns, as my father used to say." Tyler guided her to the group where Jonathan was chatting animatedly and made the formal introductions. "Mr. Davis, allow me to introduce Mrs. Amanda Bennett from Sunrise Valley Farm, one of our most important clients. Mrs. Bennett, this is Raymond Davis, National Director of the automaker." The executive greeted Amanda cordially, clearly impressed. "It's a great pleasure to meet you in person, Mrs. Bennett. I read about your award as Female Producer of the Year, a remarkable achievement. Thank you, Mr. Davis, that's very kind of you." It was then that Tyler made the crucial introduction, "And I believe you already know Mr. Jonathan Miller." Jonathan's eyes narrowed slightly upon recognizing her, but he maintained his social composure. "Amanda, what a surprise to see you here." His tone was formally polite, but carried an unmistakable note of disdain. Jonathan, equally surprised. She kept her voice steady and her gaze direct. An uncomfortable silence threatened to settle in, but Tyler skillfully intervened. "Mrs. Bennett recently acquired a fleet of 10 trucks from us to fulfill an international coffee export contract, a truly impressive operation." The comment had the desired effect. Raymond Davis immediately perked up. "An international contract? That's fascinating. Which market, if I may ask?" "Japan," Amanda replied, allowing herself a discreet smile of pride. "Thompson Coffee, one of the country's largest specialty coffee importers." Jonathan couldn't completely hide his surprise. The mention of Thompson Coffee, an internationally respected name, clearly caught him off guard. "I didn't realize Sunrise Valley had expanded so much," he remarked, trying to keep his tone casual. "Last I heard, it was me facing difficulties." "Things change, Jonathan," Amanda replied serenely. "Over the past 8 years, we've tripled our yield per acre and significantly improved bean quality. Our coffee is now ranked among the best in the U.S. The conversation continued for a few minutes, with Raymond Davis showing genuine interest in the details of Amanda's operation. Jonathan, realizing he was being overshadowed, tried to regain control. "Well, while Amanda focuses on coffee, I'm expanding my cattle operation into Montana. I just acquired a 5,000-acre ranch there. That's why I'm interested in this new truck model. I'll need at least 3 units to start." "You have a forward-thinking vision, Mr. Miller," praised Davis. "Montana is a region with enormous potential. Tyler, sensing an opportunity, interjected again. By the way, Mr. Miller, you mentioned you were considering selling some of your land here in the region, correct? Jonathan seemed momentarily thrown by the abrupt change of subject, but replied, "Yes, I'm considering it. With my focus now on Montana, it makes sense to divest some smaller properties." "How interesting," Amanda remarked, picking up the cue. "Would those happen to be the lands adjacent to my farm?" Jonathan's eyes gleamed with a flash of cunning. "Exactly those. Why, would you be interested?" "I might be. We're considering expanding production, and those lands would be ideal due to their proximity." "An expansion?" Jonathan couldn't hide his curiosity. "To fulfill this contract." "With the Japanese?" "Among other projects," Amanda replied vaguely, sticking to the strategy she had planned with Tyler, of not immediately revealing the real reason for her interest. Raymond Davis, sensing the underlying tension, discreetly stepped away to greet other guests, leaving Amanda and Jonathan momentarily alone with Tyler. "Interesting timing, Amanda," Jonathan commented with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Just as I'm preparing these lands for sale, you show up needing them." "The business world is full of coincidences, isn't it?" she replied, keeping her composure. "In any case, if you're truly interested in selling, we could discuss the matter more formally another time." Jonathan took a sip of his champagne before answering, "Certainly, but I should warn you, I have other interested parties, and as you might imagine, those lands are particularly valuable to certain buyers." The implication was clear. He would charge her a premium, exploiting her specific need for that location. Tyler, sensing the conversation was heading toward potential conflict, intervened. "Mr. Miller, the sales director at the manufacturer would like to discuss details about your truck order for Montana. As I mentioned, there's a considerable waiting list, but we're prioritizing select clients like you." Jonathan hesitated, clearly torn between continuing the conversation with Amanda and not missing the chance to secure the trucks he urgently needed. "Go ahead, Jonathan," Amanda encouraged. "We can continue our talk another time. In fact, why not come to the farm on Thursday morning? We could discuss our potential deal more calmly." After a moment's consideration, Jonathan nodded. "Thursday at 10, I'll be there." When he walked away, Tyler turned to Amanda. "He took the bait. Now you have 2 days to prepare your negotiation strategy." "Yes, but he clearly intends to exploit the situation to the fullest." You heard his tone, that hint about other interested parties and the particular value of the land. "I noticed. But you also have cards up your sleeve, and if I may advise, use the fact that he urgently needs those trucks to start his operation in Montana. The normal delivery time would be 3 months, but for special clients, we can reduce it to 6 weeks. The next morning, Amanda called a meeting with Andrew and Jack Brown to discuss the negotiation strategy with Jonathan. "He'll try to squeeze as much as possible, that's certain," said Jack, who knew Jonathan's temperament well after years of interaction in the region. "And it's not just about the money. It's a matter of pride for him. In a way, it's a continuation of the feud that started when Mr. Paul left." "I agree," Andrew said. "We need to set clear boundaries for this negotiation. Based on my financial analysis, we can pay up to 30% above market value and still maintain the project's viability. Anything more would seriously hurt profitability." Amanda nodded thoughtfully. "The problem is, Jonathan knows we specifically need those lands for contiguous expansion. Alternative properties would mean much more complex and costly logistics." "What about this truck angle Tyler mentioned?" Jack asked. "Could be valuable leverage." "It's a possibility, but it would have to be handled very subtly. I don't want it to seem like manipulation." The meeting continued for another hour, with the three outlining different scenarios and approaches. By the end, Amanda felt more prepared, though still uneasy about the outcome. On Thursday, at 10 o'clock, Jonathan's car passed through the gates of Sunrise Valley Farm. Amanda welcomed him on the porch of the main house, where she had prepared coffee and cookies. "Welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for coming." "I couldn't refuse an invitation to see the miracle of Sunrise Valley up close," he replied with a smile that carried more irony than warmth. "I'll admit, I'm impressed by what I heard at the dealership event. There was no miracle, just hard work, investment in quality, and an exceptional team." Yes, certainly. His eyes scanned the property visible from the porch, assessing. The farm really does seem to be in excellent condition. Paul would be surprised. The mention of her ex-husband was clearly meant to unsettle her, but Amanda kept her composure. I'm sure he would. Coffee? After the initial pleasantries, Amanda led Jonathan on a brief tour of the farm's key areas, the modernized processing unit, the quality lab, and finally, the property line bordering the land she wanted to acquire. As you can see, expanding contiguously on this side would be logistically ideal, she explained, pointing to the area. The soil characteristics are similar, the topography is favorable, and we could easily integrate it into the existing infrastructure. Jonathan watched with calculated interest. Yes, I perfectly understand why these specific parcels would be irreplaceable for you. Back in the main office, Amanda finally got straight to the point. So, Jonathan, let's talk business. I'm interested in purchasing your land to expand our coffee production. What would your price be? He smiled slowly. Before answering, considering the prime location, the proven soil quality, and the fact that they represent a unique opportunity for Sunrise Valley's contiguous expansion, I'd say a fair value would be 80% above the region's average market price. Amanda kept her expression neutral, but inside she was alarmed. The proposal was absurdly inflated, far beyond the limit she had set with Andrew. That's significantly higher than the land's actual value, Jonathan, and you know it. I'm prepared to offer a fair price considering all circumstances, but 80% above market is simply unworkable. It's a matter of supply and demand, my dear. You need these specific parcels, and I'm the only seller. Basic economics. And abuse of a dominant position which could be legally challenged. She paused strategically. But I didn't come here to discuss legalities. I came to propose a deal that could benefit us both. The mention of possible legal challenges had clearly struck a nerve, and Jonathan adjusted his posture, suddenly more attentive. I'm listening. I have a counter-offer. I'll pay 25% above market value for the land, a significant and fair premium, given the circumstances. In return, besides payment, I can expedite the priority delivery of the trucks you need for your operation in Montana. Jonathan narrowed his eyes. How exactly would you do that? I have a good relationship with the American Roots dealership. As you saw at the event, they owe me a few favors, let's say. I can guarantee your trucks will be delivered in 6 weeks instead of the usual 3-month wait. Given the tight schedule for your Montana expansion, I imagine that holds considerable value for you. It was a bold move, but calculated. Amanda knew, through Tyler, that Jonathan had repeatedly mentioned the urgency of getting those trucks to start operations before the next rainy season. The silence that followed told her he was seriously considering the offer. Finally, he responded, 50% above market value and a written guarantee of truck delivery within 6 weeks. That's my final offer. Amanda knew this was the crucial moment. In the negotiation, standing firm could result in complete failure, but conceding too much would jeopardize the financial viability of the expansion. 35% above market value, guaranteed delivery in 6 weeks, and I'll also include a consulting contract with our technical team to help establish sustainable pastures on your new property. Our soil management expertise could be extremely valuable in reducing pasture preparation time. The additional offer of technical consulting was clearly an unexpected element Jonathan hadn't anticipated. It was a high-value service that would cost Amanda little, considering she already had the expertise in-house. After a few minutes of silent consideration, during which Amanda made a conscious effort not to show anxiety, Jonathan finally extended his hand. We have a deal. 35% above market price, priority truck delivery, and the technical consulting contract. My lawyers will reach out to formalize the details. When they shook hands, Amanda felt a mix of relief and triumph. The negotiation had been tense, but the outcome fell within the parameters she'd set. The expansion of Sunrise Valley Farm would be feasible. You know, Amanda, Jonathan remarked as he prepared to leave, I have to admit, I underestimated you. When Paul passed, I genuinely believed you'd sell the farm within a year or two. He paused, looking around with newfound appreciation. I'm impressed by what you've built here, and I'm not easily impressed. Thank you, Jonathan. That means a lot coming from you. After he left, Amanda immediately called Catherine Thompson to confirm the acceptance of the expanded contract proposal. They scheduled lunch for the following day to finalize the details. Then she called Tyler. We did it, Tyler. Jonathan agreed to sell the land for 35% above market value. That's excellent, Mrs. Bennett. Within the limit we set. What about the trucks? I'll need your help securing priority delivery in 6 weeks. It was part of the deal. Don't worry. I already spoke with the logistics director at the manufacturer after the event. We can guarantee that delivery without issue. In fact, I'll use this case as an example of how our new agribusiness division can create customized solutions beyond just selling vehicles. Amanda smiled as she hung up. Her partnership with Tyler had proven valuable in ways she never could have predicted during that disastrous first visit to the dealership. The following days were a whirlwind of activity, finalizing the expanded contract with Thompson Coffee, closing the land purchase from Jonathan, and preparing for the expansion of the coffee plantations. Meanwhile, the current harvest continued at full speed, with the farm's trucks constantly moving between the property and the Port of Oakland. 2 weeks after the negotiation with Jonathan, Amanda received an unexpected call from Robert Mitchell, the dealership's general manager. Mrs. Bennett, I have news I'd like to share in person. Our headquarters has approved transforming the PUI agribusiness division into a full department with its own budget and operational autonomy. And more importantly, Tyler has been promoted to department director. That's wonderful, Robert. Tyler truly deserves this promotion. He's done exceptional work. I couldn't agree more, and much of the credit goes to you. The transformation you sparked in our company culture has produced results beyond all expectations. Since implementing the training on respectful customer service, our sales to the rural sector have increased by 40%. It's rewarding to know that an initially negative experience could yield so many positive outcomes. Precisely for that reason, we'd like to invite you to a special event next week. It will be the official launch ceremony for the agribusiness department, and we'd like you to be our guest of honor. As she hung up, Amanda reflected on how events had unfolded in unexpected ways. What had begun as a public humiliation had turned into a series of opportunities and growth, not just for her but for everyone involved. On the day of the event at the dealership, Amanda was surprised by the magnitude of the celebration. American Roots had transformed its main showroom into an elegant reception space, with banners highlighting the new agribusiness department. Farmers from across the region attended, many of whom Amanda knew personally. Robert greeted her at the entrance. Mrs. Bennett, it's an honor to have you with us on this special evening. If you'll follow me, I'd like to show you something before we officially begin the event. He led her to a reserved area of the showroom where a photo display had been set up. To her surprise, at the center was a large photograph of her, wearing her signature straw hat, alongside an inscription, "Inspiration for Change." We want this display to serve as a constant reminder to our team about the importance of respect and valuing every customer, regardless of appearance or background, Robert explained. Our experience with you was a true turning point for our company. Amanda was genuinely moved. I don't know what to say, Robert. This is such a touching tribute. It's simply a sincere acknowledgement of how your influence has changed. Our company for the better. The event continued with official speeches, including a particularly heartfelt one from Tyler, who openly credited Amanda for his personal and professional transformation. To everyone's surprise, Paul, the salesman who had been one of the most arrogant during their first encounter, also gave a brief speech, sharing how the experience had changed his perspective on customer service and respect. When it was Amanda's turn to speak, she chose a simple yet powerful message. Respect and dignity aren't courtesies we extend only to a privileged few. They are fundamental rights every human being deserves. In my journey as a woman in agribusiness, I've faced countless situations of prejudice and doubt. Each one could have been a reason to give up or to harbor resentment. But I chose to turn them into opportunities for education and growth. What I experienced at this dealership a few months ago could have been just another unpleasant chapter in that story. Instead, It became a milestone of transformation for all of us. It proves that when we're willing to acknowledge our mistakes and learn from them, we can create something far greater and more meaningful than we ever imagined. Her remarks were met with warm applause. After her speech, many farmers came to greet her, several sharing their own experiences of prejudice and disrespect in business settings. One elderly woman, in particular, approached with tears in her eyes. "Mrs. Bennett, I'm Abigail Olson from St. Clair Farm. 2 months ago, I was treated exactly like you at this very dealership. But after hearing your story, I came back for a second chance. The difference was like night and day. We bought 2 trucks and were treated with complete respect. You haven't just transformed this company. You're changing how women like us are seen in agribusiness." That heartfelt testimony was, for Amanda, the most meaningful validation that her decision to turn a negative experience into something constructive had been the right one. When the event ended, Tyler walked her to her car. "Mrs. Bennett, I can't properly express how grateful I am. Not just for saving my job back then, but for teaching me a life lesson I'll carry forever. You earned that second chance, Tyler, and you made the most of it. I promise the agribusiness department will be an example of respectful, personalized service. No client will ever be judged by appearances on my team." On the drive back to the farm, Amanda reflected on the extraordinary journey of the past few months, from public humiliation to being celebrated as an inspiration for institutional change, from nearly losing the international contract due to tax issues to significantly expanding that same contract, from the long-standing feud with Jonathan to the successful negotiation that allowed the farm's expansion. Every obstacle had been turned into an opportunity, every conflict into growth, and through it all she had stayed true to herself, never compromising her values or identity. 3 months later, Sunrise Valley Farm was thriving. The land acquired from Jonathan was already being prepared for new coffee plantations. The full fleet of 10 trucks operated efficiently, ensuring the expanded contract with Thompson Coffee was fulfilled, and Amanda's reputation as a transformative leader in agribusiness had solidified across the region. One quiet afternoon, after a productive meeting with her agronomy team about the expansion project, Amanda took a moment to sit on the farmhouse porch, gazing at the coffee plantations stretching as far as the eye could see. Her ever-present straw hat rested beside her, a silent witness to her journey. Mary, who had come to visit her friend, joined her on the porch. Who would have thought, Amanda, that the humiliation at the dealership would end up sparking so many positive changes? Amanda smiled, taking a sip of the coffee she herself had produced. Life's full of irony, isn't it? Remember when you called me that day, furious about how I'd been treated? How could I forget? I wanted you to sue those arrogant salesmen. And today one of them is director of an entire department, transforming the company culture. Another learned a valuable lesson about respect. And me, well, I gained far more than I lost from that experience. Mary looked at her friend with admiration. You've always had that gift, Amanda, turning lemons into lemonade, seeing opportunities where others only see problems. Maybe it's my mother's legacy. She always said our reactions to events shape our lives far more than the events themselves. Just then, Amanda's phone rang. It was Emily, her roasting master, with exciting news. "Mrs. Bennett, we just got the results from the International Specialty Coffee Competition. Our special batch won first place in the highest sensory score category. It's the first time a U.S. coffee has received this specific honor." The news filled Amanda with pride. It was another validation of the meticulous work her team did, of the relentless pursuit of excellence that had become Sunrise Valley Farm's trademark. Hanging up, she shared the news with Mary, who hugged her warmly. "See, more proof you were right all along, that those salesmen were completely wrong to judge you by appearances, by your straw hat." Amanda picked up the hat, looking at it fondly. "You know, this hat belonged to my father. He always said that a good farmer shouldn't be ashamed of their roots or their symbols. That true strength comes from authenticity, not appearances." As the sun began to set over the coffee plantations, casting a golden light over the property, Amanda reflected on her journey. From the little girl who followed her father through the coffee fields to the woman now running one of the most respected farms in the country. From the abandoned wife, many thought incapable, to the award-winning businesswoman recognized internationally. And through all those changes, she had remained true to herself, proudly wearing the straw hat that symbolized her origins and her values. In the end, she concluded, gazing at the horizon, it doesn't matter how much what we wear is worth, but the worth of who we are, and that no one can judge by appearances. The end. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Tell us in the comments, have you ever faced prejudice because of your appearance? Your support inspires us to keep sharing stories that move and transform.